Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about what I consider to be the most underutilized mode in amateur radio. It is APRS, and that's a fact that I didn't know until about 2 weeks ago. I want to give the caveat up front that this video is really not for experienced hams, although you're welcome to watch it. It's really more for friends and colleagues that are interested in what I've been tinkering with, and also new hams might find it useful if they're not familiar with APRS. So I'm going to go ahead and put this up on my amateur radio YouTube channel, just in case anybody finds it useful. But just keep in mind, it's really designed for people who are not amateurs and maybe have a background in technology, but don't really know anything about APRS. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the technical details of APRS. So APRS stands for Automatic Packet Reporting System. And this is one of the reasons why I think it's so underutilized. Most amateur radio operators think it stands for Automatic Position Reporting System. It doesn't. It's Automatic Packet Reporting System. It's an amateur radio-based, worldwide, real-time digital network of users, digital repeaters, also called digipeaters, and internet gateways or iGates. Now in practice, a lot of times digipeaters are also iGates. My digipeater that I operate here at my house is also an iGate, but there are some digipeaters that are out at remote like repeater sites that don't have internet connections, so they're just digipeaters. Throughout this video, I'll probably using the words digipeater and repeater interchangeably, just because I'm used to saying repeater and I'm pretty new to all this APRS stuff. So the system users can send data packets, and these data packets propagate through the network over the radio airwaves. Packets can include object position reports, which is the most common by a large margin, weather station data, right? So current temperature, relative humidity, all that kind of stuff, text messages, announcements, queries, bulletins, other information. Hey, we've got a club meeting this Friday at 8 p.m. or whatever. Like, you can pretty much put anything out on this network you want, and that's why I think it's underutilized. It's not underused. There are a lot of APRS users. They're just not fully taking advantage of the system. So the data packets are small, concise frames, and they use a datagram style connectionless mode of operation. So for those of you who are in IT, it's basically like UDP, right? Fire off a packet and forget it. There's no handshake. There's no communication back and forth, nothing like that. It's just fire and forget. The data transmission uses the AX25 protocol, that's amateur X25, and the blistering late 1970s bit rate of 1200 baud. Within each packet is a source, typically a call sign, a destination, an originating device identifier. Those two are kind of the same thing. A path, a message type identifier, and a payload. That's really what makes up every frame or packet of the APRS network. And now we get to the most interesting part, which is paths. So paths use the wide NN path paradigm, where the lowercase n equals the type of digipeater that can repeat the packet, and the uppercase n represents the number of hops allowed for that type of digipeater. So if I sent a message with a path of wide 17, that means only wide 1 digipeaters can repeat that packet, and it can be repeated 7 times, which would be chaos, but we'll get into that here in a second. So like I said, the two types of digipeaters most common are wide 1 and wide 2. There are a couple wide 3s, but for the most part, you're going to find wide 1 and wide 2. Now, wide 1, that's what I operate here at my house. That's a fill-in digipeater. So typically these are, at a home or a place of business. The antenna's maybe 30 feet up. It covers not a very large area, a few miles in any direction or something like that. But a small area, a small footprint, that is a wide 1 digipeater. Wide 2 digipeaters tend to be at, repeater sites or broadcast sites. The antenna might be 250 feet in the air, 500 feet, 800 feet in the air, very high up and with a very large radio footprint. So the wide 2 digipeaters are a much larger coverage area. If you think about it like this, even though those digipeaters, the wide 2s, are so high up, they're still going to have blind spots in their radio coverage. And the wide 1 digipeaters really can fill in those blind spots. So let's talk about how a path might be formatted in a frame. The most common path would be wide 1-1, wide 2-1. Now keep in mind that a wide 2 can respond to a wide 1 path, but not the other way around. A wide 1 cannot respond to a wide 2 path, but a wide 2 can respond to a wide 1. So that's important to understand, because a lot of times if you fire off a packet with wide 1-1, wide 2-1, a wide 2 repeater might be the first to pick up that packet and repeat it. And that's totally okay. And then another example, like if a message had the path wide 2-2, that would mean that only a wide 2 repeater could repeat that packet, and it could have 2 hops. So both of those paths have 2 hops. It's just the wide 1-1 comma wide 2-1 path allows the first hop to happen at a wide 1 fill-in digipeater. It's kind of a lot, right? Just take it all in. So how things could get totally out of control is if somebody addressed a message to like wide 1-7, wide 2-7, right? So basically that could overwhelm a state, a region, a country very quickly. So most digipeaters use filtering, and they can identify those paths and reduce the number of hops. And the reason that it could be total chaos is because, like I said earlier, these digipeaters do not communicate with one another. So if you send a packet and it just heads out in all directions, the digipeater due east and the digipeater due west might not know that each other are repeating that packet at the same time. So you get kind of a branching tree effect across, large areas of space. So that's why we have to define these paths, and we have to make them limited, because even though they're limited, it's not uncommon to hear repeated packets from a state or two away, even with very limited paths. So now that we've got all the technical details out of the way, kind of a basic understanding, I hope, let's look at an example. So here's our little area. We've got user A and user B. User A wants to send user B a message. The only problem is there's a mountain range in between the two users. So when user A tries to send his text message, it just runs into the mountain and user B never hears it. So how do we solve this problem? Well, we solve it in the same way amateurs always solve all problems, and that is to build a network. So you can see on our network here now, we've got 5 digipeaters, 2 of which are wide 1, 3 of which are wide 2. And we also have some additional users, ancillary users. So let's see what happens now when user A sends out his text message packet addressed to user B. So he sends it out, and he sends it out with a path of wide 1-1, wide 2-1. And it so happens that there are 4 receivers within range of user A that all hear this packet. Now, down to the southwest, user C receives it just directly, basically simplex, but he just discards it because it's not addressed to him, so of no concern. 1 wide 2 digipeater and 2 wide 1 digipeaters hear this message. So they're going to store it just long enough for the transmission to end, and then they're going to do the first hop. Now, when they do that first hop in the path, they replace the wide 1-1 with their identifier. Now, I do have a typo on here where it says wide 2-2. It's supposed to say wide 2-1, and it's probably too small for you to see it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But all of these blue lines are first hop. Now, this wide 1 digipeater here immediately to the east of user A is also an iGate. So when he hears that packet, he reports it to the internet. He also repeats it, as does this big wide 2 digipeater up here and this wide 1 up down here. So all these repeaters are repeating that packet, and they don't necessarily know that each other are doing that. And in each of those hops, they've replaced wide 1-1 with their own identifier. So now we've got 2 wide 2 digipeaters that have heard this, and then this wide 2 digipeater up here, he's just firing off, and maybe there's somebody way out to the west, another digipeater that's going to hear it, and it's going to make another hop out to the west. And now let's go ahead and do the next hop. Okay, so Digipeater E down here, he repeats it, and now the path is C star E star, so its number of hops along this path has been completed. The user D receives the packet. He sees it. It's not for him. He just ignores it. But up here on top of the mountain, Digipeater D has repeated it, and it just so happens that user B is within range of this large digipeater up here on the mountain range. So he hears it and he says, oh, hey, that's a message from Frank. Let me reply to him. And this is how APRS works. It's like a connectionless UDP system over RF. And I think it's super underutilized. I'm actually writing some software for it now, and I can just see so many uses, and people just don't tinker enough. They buy a radio that's APRS capable, they beacon their position, maybe they send a couple text messages, and that's about it. But I think we could really build upon and improve the system and make it a lot more useful. I mean, it's just out there. It reminds me a lot of phone phreaking. It's basically the same kind of idea, like, except it's legal, right? Now, I wasn't around for phone phreaking. I was too young when that was going on, but you know, I know about it historically. And when I'm tinkering with APRS, it gives me the same kind of vibes because it is just an analog network, right? And the phone phreakers were just taking advantage of an analog network. And I think it's really cool. So I'll end this video for now, letting you hear some APRS traffic. I find the traffic to be kind of soothing to have on in the background. It sounds like an old school modem because that's exactly what it is. But I'll put up some traffic on the screen, let you hear what it sounds like, and show you the just some traffic that my digipeater is receiving. Then on the next video, I'll go into a little bit more detail about my digipeater and the software I'm writing. I run Direwolf as my TNC on a little single board computer, and I'm writing a companion software called Shadowcat. And I'm really just at the point now where I'm able to generate messages and send them over the KISS protocol to the TNC. But there's a lot of things I can do with it, and I don't know what direction I'm going to go. We'll cover that in the next video. But for now, I'll leave you with some APRS sounds. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you found this entertaining or informative, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.